City of Stevens Point Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission, recorded September 10, 2020.
And let's do a roll count. Commissioner O'Meara.
Here.
Commissioner Fehrenbach. He is excused. Commissioner Finn.
Here.
Commissioner Leek.
Here.
And Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Lane Brown.
Here.
Okay, and Commissioner Rourke here. Looks like we have a quorum. Great. Okay, item 2. Persons who wish to address the commission for up to 3 minutes on a non-agenda item. And again, for those that either are new to Zoom or just need a refresher, please feel free to either raise your hand visibly in your video, or I think there's a raise hand function in one of these bars here. Yes, Commissioner Lane Brown.
I had a person approach me about the sidewalks along HH near Ben Franklin on River Road that they don't extend down to the condominiums that are beyond the trailer park, and that they've noticed that children or middle-aged kids are walking in the road to go to school. So
Okay.
that might be something that we want to look at in terms of getting more sidewalks there for getting kids to school,
Okay, yeah, if you could email staff,
yeah.
they can just double check, make sure it's within city limits. And then,
Well, yeah, I guess
Go
it's the
from there.
green circle on the other side, yeah.
okay. Great. Other commissioners on a non-agenda item? Okay, I do have, let's see, just a couple here. Yep. All right, so I received an email from a form from the mayor. So from the city website, the mayor forwarded me an email because there were questions about our meetings from a resident. And so the resident's name, David Femmel, of 1501 Maria Drive. And I addressed his questions, and then he asked that I read the following statement at our meeting because he could not attend. So here's Mr. Femmel's statement. Mr. Work, thank you for your reply. As I am unable to attend today's BPSSC meeting in person due to work, please relay my following thoughts to the committee and enter them into any official minutes as pursuant with any government statutes or ordinances. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, back to the quotes here. Statement. Although I am in favor of biking and being outside in general, I have numerous issues with the bike lanes that are being installed and are being talked about for future expansion. Number 1, cost. Although the city did receive some grants for this project, the city is still paying approximately $327,000 for the construction of these paths. There has been no mention of the costs associated with the upkeep. This money could be better spent to fix the infrastructure of the city, as well as to be used to offset the multi-million-dollar deficit that was caused by the pandemic. If these paths were of no cost to the city and were funded entirely by outside sources, that would be a different conversation. Number 2, use. Although the paths around the campus may have uses and Green Circle is certainly used, that vast majority of these lanes are unused. This is also partly caused by the fact that we live in a cold climate. For 8 months out of the year, it is just not possible to ride bikes, regardless of bike paths, especially in the winter when the roads are lined with snowbanks and become narrow enough for cars. Number 3, public response. Regardless of what city Regardless of what certain city council members may believe, these bike paths have been roundly criticized and disliked by the community as a whole. The response in social media, local establishments, and area workplaces is overwhelmingly negative. Number 4, safety. It has been written in various printed editorials that even bike riders find these new lanes unsafe. They are too narrow. They are on streets that simply were not built with enough space on the sides to accommodate bikes, especially if there is street parking. Parents are actually telling their children to avoid bike lanes and ride on the sidewalk to avoid being hit by a car. Someone will get hurt with these new bike lanes. Number 5, construction of lanes. The lines were painted haphazardly and at times are defiantly not straight. They are an eyesore in spots and in other spots intersect with traffic lanes, creating confusion of who is supposed to be in what lane. In conclusion, I, along with many others, believe that these lanes are an expensive, unnecessary item that was built for the wants of a small group, while neglecting the needs and requests of the majority of the citizens. Sincerely, David Femmel, 1501 Maria Drive. Just a couple points of clarification regarding Mr. Femmel's statements. When he mentions bike paths, I think he's referring to bike facilities. So, bike lanes are a type of facility. So if anyone's listening from the public, I think he was referring to all the bicycle facilities within the specific TAP grant project. Also, another point, as a year-round bicyclist and knowing others in our community that ride their bikes year-round, the statements about use would be inaccurate. I have other opinions about the statements, but I'm not going to go into that as we continue to move on. Are there other commissioners that have statements of non-agenda item? Are there anyone in the public that has statements on a non-agenda item for up to 3 minutes? Just looking here, make sure. Okay, I don't see any. Okay. All right, we'll move on to discussion and possible action on the following. So item 3 on the agenda is a report of the August 20th, 2020 meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Street Safety Commission. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner O'Meara? Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Commissioner Lane Brown. Discussion on minutes. Any friendly amendments?
That was actually Finn that seconded, but that's probably
Oh,
doesn't.
I'm sorry. I thought I saw I saw her
Raise my
Kathy's hand at the same time. All right. Sorry, Commissioner Finn had the second. Discussion on the minutes. Any edits or friendly amendments? Okay, seeing none, we'll do all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I
Sorry,
wasn't
Michael.
very quick on the unmute, so aye.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Just to make sure I got it. So all commissioners were aye. Is that correct? Or looks like it nodded.
Correct.
Okay. Any opposed? Looks like it. No. Okay, good. All right. No abstentions. Okay, great. Motion carries. Item 4, discussion and updates on the September 16th bicycle and pedestrian count. And we'll hand this over to Janet as Commissioner Finn did take the lead on this, kind of getting handed the baton from Commissioner Fehrenbach, which couldn't join us. He couldn't join us today. But Janet, do you want to take this over?
All right. I've been asked to just talk about how we were doing on the volunteer count and if we needed help from here on out. But just briefly, first of all, Bill Fehrenbach was a great mentor. It just took one Zoom call, maybe an hour or so, and he took me through everything and told me what, how things work, but also helped me through a lot of questions and also told me what things could be updated or slightly changed if need be. And then Kathy Lynn Brown is helping out also. I had told her early on, I just as soon do the early stuff because so much was in my brain. It was almost easier to do myself as I processed. How do you send this initial email? How do you, tally responses and send the other email? So we have all the spots are full, which is good. We have just one person right now that has come in since to volunteer, and I told her that it's full, but I'll keep you in mind if somebody cancels or if there's a rain date. And that's what I'll say to any sign-ups that come in from here on out. But I think they're already slowing down, so probably won't get too many more. Adam Kuhn had mentioned that if we had several extras, maybe we could extend the Division Street intersections, but it doesn't look like we'll really have enough bodies to do that. I'll let Adam, you decide what you think about that, along with sending the confirmation email to those that did sign up. I also sent them the information instructions sheet for all the how and the when and the where, and then which also included the procedures for just what do we count at the intersection. So I called that the what. And then also sent them a copy of the tally sheet. All these things they could print out and theoretically not have to come to the launch site if they have everything they need. And I made it clear, what to do if they do that, and what they need if they don't check in at the launch site. All these are on the materials from last year that I just adopted. Along with that confirmation email, I also included a Google form that they could submit, asking them if they could, to let me know whether or not they could make a rain date, and told them the rain date would be the next day, Thursday, September 17th. So I've gotten responses for that. People who had said, yes, I can make the rain date. People have said no, but it looks like the weather is going to be good. So hopefully we don't have to worry about it, but at least I have a skeleton crew, I guess, of people that can make the rain date, and possibly spots that might need filling if there is a rain date. Most can make it, but some cannot. Ask me if there's something else I didn't address or something else that you would like an update on. And Kathy's going to now, the next step is getting all the materials, and Bill has a connection with Rod Suter, and at the I wrote down what department he's at. You maybe know who he is. I forgot what department he's at, and I don't have that sheet. But he gathered the materials, the clipboards, the safety vests, in the past. So Kathy will contact him to get those materials and have them at the site. So anything else anybody needs to know or that I didn't touch upon?
I think
Yes?
Kathy's on mute. Are you trying to speak, Commissioner?
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I did contact Rod Suter, and I will meet with him and pick up the vests and the clipboards. And I asked if he had 2 card tables. He does not. So if anybody has, and I do not.
I can bring 2 card tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh, do you want me to print off the extra sheets for the tallies? You want me to
If
have
you want to
those
do
ready?
that, that'd be great, Kathy.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is I'll pick up some pens or pencils. He didn't have any.
Great. Thank you.
So we'll be set.
I have a quick question, Commissioner Finn. Do you have, as part of your protocol, and maybe you talked to Commissioner Fehrenbach about it, when volunteers arrive to pick up the vests and a clipboard, are you planning to mention that if they're together with another volunteer that in the same intersection, they need to basically say 6 feet apart and wear a mask? Is that part of?
Written on the initial volunteer submission form that I emailed, it says to wear masks and follow physical distance protocol. And I also believe I said it on the initial email, and then for the confirmation email, I mentioned it, and it also says it on the instruction and the information instructions sheet. So they got that from different angles. So.
Okay.
So when they check in, but yes, when they check in, Kathy and I will be wearing masks. We'll make sure that they have them, and we'll mention it to them again.
Perfect. Cool.
Oh,
That's
one
great.
other thing, Janet, on your list of the count volunteers, the telephone numbers aren't listed on that sheet.
I did that on purpose. I have the telephone numbers, but I didn't think that the other volunteers should know each other's phone numbers. I don't know. I just thought that might be giving too much information to them, but I have all the phone numbers typed up on another sheet for you and me.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Good. Yep. Excellent.
Other questions for Commissioner Finn? Well, I'll just make a statement that I'm very grateful you stepped forward, Janet and Kathy. So thank you so much for helping coordinate this. I know, it's not easy stuff. So it's great, especially with a large number of volunteers like this. So
thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you
we
again.
were both a little nervous about it when we first started talking to each other about it, but we knew that the first time it's going to be the worst time. So I think now we both have a little better idea of what it's all about and all the things that we have to keep track of.
Great. Yeah. Are there any, just so you don't forget here, any questions from the public regarding the bicycle pedestrian count coming up on the 16th of September? Look for hands raised in the video or in the chat. Not seeing anything. Okay, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll go ahead and move on. Unless there's something else you want to mention, Commissioner Finn?
No.
Okay, thank you again. Okay, item 5 is discussion on updating the city bicycle parking ordinance. Okay, so I'll lead off on this one. So our former group, so the BPAC, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, basically the predecessor of the BPSSC, lots of acronyms. The predecessor of our commission, we had finalized a bike parking ordinance. It looks like it's now up on the screen. Thank you, Adam. We had finalized this bicycle parking ordinance. We worked on it a few years ago and processed and did a bunch of work on it for a number of months, coming back and forth to the BPAC meetings. It's based on a variety of Midwest cities bike parking ordinance, very, very similar to what we were striving for, basically a pretty big update, if you will. And a lot of components were used from those city ordinances and kind of put together into this final version. So we as a BPAC, we recommended this to staff those 2 or 3 years ago. And that the version you see now in the packet and on the screen is the final version that was submitted to staff. And so from there, the plan was to basically update that new ordinance coinciding with the new zoning code rewrite. But that actual zoning code rewrite was delayed 1 or 2 years, I think, if I have the timeline correct, Ryan or Adam. As a result, because it's still delayed, this bike parking ordinance has not been adopted. So this is basically another first review. So this is our draft. So we're working on basically creating a new bicycle parking ordinance for the city. And we're using this draft as our template. So from here, we basically can just go through it, see if there's any changes. We can make changes, via email. You can make recommendations directly to Adam or me. If there's something you saw in here that just conflicts with, today's world or with today's zoning or today's, eventual strategic and comprehensive plans, then we can add that or delete something. So really, this is a template to start from. So this is our starting point.
Okay, Trevor,
Yes, Commissioner
I
O'Mara.
have two easy ones.
Okay.
In the first paragraph, 5.51.6.1, I would strike the word approximately on both paragraph A and B. All they do is make everything squishy.
Too easy to.
It is, no, they're weasel words.
Okay.
It's a clear sentence, expected to park their bicycle for 1 day or less. Approximately adds no better meaning.
Sure. Makes sense.
And the same with the second one.
Duly noted.
And
I guess if
then,
I could just extrapolate a little bit more
Yep.
too from what you said, Chair Rourke. So there's a couple of reasons why we wanted to go about taking a look at this potentially update our existing bicycle parking ordinance. First of which is what you alluded to earlier, in that the zoning code rewrite is likely to be more of a long-term solution, a long-term event that takes place, and staff and Chair Rourke both agreed that this is something that we could take care of updating before the full zoning code rewrite takes place, meaning the bicycle parking ordinance can be modified. So that's the first reason. And the second reason as to why we're bringing this before the commission today, even though the commission, formerly known as BPAC, made the recommendation a few years ago, in part because, as what Chair Rourke mentioned before, things change over time. There might be new practices that may be better suited in today's climate than what, for example, wasn't, say, 2-3 years ago. And secondly, with the turnover in the commission, we felt that'd be beneficial for the new commissioners to also have their input on future changes to the ordinance as well. So, like I said, this is more of a just introductory phase to learn about what can and should be modified or amended, added to the existing bicycle parking ordinance you see on the screen and in your packet. And then as far as setting more of a timeline, what we'll do is we'll take your thoughts, bring it back to the commission again for further review. And once we feel as a staff and a commission that the final ordinance is appropriate, then the BPSSC will be technically bringing it before Plan Commission for subsequent adoption into the zoning ordinance. So just to kind of give a little more of a background on that, and it will be more dependent as far as how much thoughts and inputs that we have from the commission and any members of the public as they so seek as well. So.
Thank you, Adam. Yep.
Sure.
Trevor, I have one more.
Yes, Commissioner O'Mara.
Okay, on the paragraph maintenance, subsection B, where it says that they're gonna clear snow 1 inch. And I would like to have the end of it say, and shall be kept well drained and maintained as mud-free. Because if they have snow piled up such that there's 3 inches of water in there or there's ice forming, I'm sure that's not our intent.
Sure, that makes sense. So it's like subsection B shall be maintained as
No, shall be kept well drained
kept well drained. Okay.
and maintained as mud-free.
Okay.
So just real quick on that, if I may, Commissioner
Yes.
Rourke.
Sure, go ahead.
I don't want the bike parking to go to exceed what we would have for typical standards for parking lot parking. And in a parking
Sure.
lot situation, while we encourage everything to be well drained and well maintained, it would be outside the purview of the city to require that these types of things occur on that specific site. So we can't outside of regular upkeep and maintenance, if they so choose not to put in a stormwater pipe next to the bike, we typically wouldn't be able to require something like that. So just throwing that one out there. I don't want us to get too deep into the weeds on that.
It would just be more of a
Ryan, I'm not proposing putting in an area drain. I'm proposing that they don't allow the accumulation of snow to be such that you have water standing. Anybody who puts in a bike pad will have it someplace that usually doesn't have water. I'm concerned about having the snow being allowed to be such that there is an accumulation or puddle.
I mean,
We have the
I've
same
seen
rules
that
on sidewalks.
already.
I completely understand, Commissioner Mayor, where you're coming from. I'm just trying to think what's the enforcement of this look like? I mean, most parking lots, we don't regulate that you can, plow snow into a corner, and I get that we want to keep it clear as and open as possible. I guess I've got to think on this a little bit more, and Adam and I can look into it to figure out what makes the most sense, so that we're not putting staff in a position where we're trying to enforce maintenance regulations on a private parking lot that allows or has bike parking as well. So
if there was 3 inches of water there, what would you do?
it's private property. As long as the stormwater management is held on the site or up to current code, then there's not a whole lot the city would do in that specific scenario.
If it was a walkway, you would, wouldn't you?
If it was a public walkway, we would, correct. If it's a private
No,
walkway.
if it was a private walkway, you would. On entry into the building and you were forming ice. You would.
I'd have to look. I don't know if we've enforced that in the past. I don't think the city would enforce that. I think that
It'd be a
the
building code
business owner
violation.
would be responsible for maintaining that to a certain standard.
Okay.
Well, look into
imagine-
some way we can get that across.
Sure, we'll do.
Yeah, so I imagine there's other items that might come up too that need, I mean, the whole thing needs staff review anyway, so I imagine there's other items that, having that maintenance filter in mind and what can be, actually regulated. So,
The one other thing is, what about bike parking that we allow on the public right of way? Like on a sidewalk,
what
which I
about
think
it,
most of them
Commissioner
will
Merrill?
be. What about when we allow a bicycle parking to be on a sidewalk? That's public right of way.
I would think it'd be no different, isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah, it would not be different if it's on the public sidewalk or on the public right of way. Then it's within the confines of a city regulated area, and we have the ability to go in and say, hey, that needs to be cleaned out, that needs to be cleared, as we do, if you live on 4th Avenue and you fail to shovel your sidewalk, the city either sends you a letter or we'll go out and we'll take care of it ourselves and then send you the bill. That's no different because it's within the purview of the city, within the city's right of way. When it goes off of the city right of way, we've got to be a little bit careful because we are limited in what we can enforce on private property.
Yeah, I would agree with that because I think that probably 80% of the bicycle property, parking will be on public right of way.
So could there be maybe clarification at a future meeting when we review this again, as far as
Yes.
what the regulation and what's under the purview of the city? Okay. Other commissioners that have thoughts or edits or ideas about the bike parking ordinance? Okay. Not seeing any hands here. Anyone from the audience, residents that have joined us today, have questions or comments about the draft bike parking ordinance for the city? I am not seeing anything. Is anybody seeing any hands here? No? Okay. So, Associate Planner Kuhn, did you have anything else to add before we move on?
I do not offhand. I just pulled up the parking ratio document that the BPAC at the time took a look at and presented their recommendations as well. So I don't know if there's any commission input as far as the minimum bicycle spaces that are or should be recommended based off of the type of use for each parcel. So that's something that staff would be interested in, as well as far as if there's any changes from what's shown on the screen and in your packet, if there's any changes that should occur.
I just have one. I
Yes.
don't understand, is DU designated unit?
A dwelling unit, correct?
Dwelling unit.
Correct, dwelling unit.
Okay, okay.
And of course, we don't have to review every line item today. It's best to take this back and review at home and then possibly email Associate Planner Kuhn or myself potential edits.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's some immediate concern or question, feel free to bring it up now. And then I'm not seeing anything from commission. I'll bring it back to the audience residents again, just in terms of this parking use table with the ratios. Anybody have a question or comments? And again, you can possibly show us your hand in the chat or show the video and raise your hand. Okay. Well, seeing none, I'll just make a final note that we'll be bringing this back to the commission. Some of the edits mentioned in our meeting today will be considered, as well as any emailed edits for a next draft. So as soon as our October meeting. Cool. Moving on to item 6, the discussion of the 20s Plenty for Us campaign, the Stockholm resolution, the Stockholm Declaration with resolution number 11, and the NACTO speed limit guidance. So I'll lead on this as well. So for a number of years, people have been reading about the worldwide campaign, the 20s Plenty for Us. It started in the UK in 2007. Yeah, 2007. And has grown to about 330 campaigns worldwide. And basically the gist of it is to reduce speed limits or set speed limits for neighborhoods and urban streets to 20 miles per hour or less. It was founded by a nonprofit, and there's about a handful in the United States. So there's not a ton. However, this coinciding with the Stockholm Declaration. So of this year, in February, there was a week-long meeting of road safety experts, NGOs, and ministers. They gathered for the third Global Ministerial Conference on Road Safety in Stockholm. It was hosted by the Swedish government and in collaboration with the World Health Organization. One primary outcome was the Stockholm Declaration. So of the 18 resolutions which were declared in the Stockholm Declaration, resolution number 11 was on speed management and specifically mandated the global and universal use of 30 kilometers per hour, or in our case, 20 miles per hour or less for speed limits. Alongside the Stockholm Declaration, even more recently was NACTO's guide that just came out. So the National Association for City Transportation Officials, they came out with a guide called City Limits, which has a subheading of setting safe speed limits on urban streets. And it's a full-blown guide on how to do that. So in discussion with staff last week, it was agreed that a joint meeting between the BPSSC Board of Public Works and the Police and Fire Commission was desired to discuss this topic and of course for possible future action. If there's other boards or commissions that should be included, of course we can do that. Or if it's a joint with a council meeting, that maybe that's possible as well. But today is really a first look. So with that, Associate Planner Kuhn had provided a lot in the agenda packet. If you haven't had a chance to read that, that's okay. There's a lot of materials in there regarding the NACTO guide, the 20's Plenty for Us campaign, and the declaration from the Stockholm Declaration. So feel free to read that stuff on your own. A lot of good materials. As some people already know, our neighborhood streets in Stevens Point have a statutory limit of 25 miles per hour. So again, that's set by the state. So there's, I imagine, a number of hoops we'd have to jump through, even if we did decide to go that direction of changing speed limits in certain zones or areas or certain streets. Kind of like a school zone, I imagine. So again, this is a first look. And then deciding when the actual joint commission meeting happens will be something to look at in the future. I don't know if Director Karnowski or Associate Planner Kuhn, if you want to mention anything else regarding this item.
I have nothing in particular, no.
Okay.
No, I don't have anything particular either. This, as you mentioned, is more of just a first look to learn about the different speed limit guidelines that NACTO has and the resolution itself, and just to gain a better understanding of what their recommendations were, their practices, etc.
Great, thank you. One thing I will mention I forgot was this fits very, very nicely with our Complete Streets resolution, as well as our Vision Zero policy. It's basically congruent. So that those two policies will actually be part of that discussion. Yeah, any thoughts or questions from commissioners?
Yes, Trevor.
Go ahead, Commissioner O'Meara.
I read it. The NACTO guidelines, I think, are workable in the city. Now, the NACTO guidelines do not set the maximum speed limit at 20. It's set at 25 on arterial and major collectors. And that's a good thing because that would mean you'd be able to put those speed limits on your two connecting highways, Highway 66 and Highway 51, which are city streets that the state allows, but we could get permission for that. And then the other people we'd have to get in was the county, because we have some county trunks in town. And we'd have to work with them to get a maximum speed limit on them. But the other things, the only thing it's going to be is it would be quite expensive because we'd have to sign the lower speed limit on all of our local streets.
Okay, thanks for bringing those items up. I guess I imagine that the signage you refer to has to happen if the statutory limit stays the same, right?
Yeah, we're not going to change the state statute, so we'll have to sign it.
Right. And obviously we'll have to figure out what that looks like, if it's even possible. Other commissioners have comments or questions about this item?
Just segueing off
Yes.
what Commissioner O'Meara just said, in the information from NACTO, I noticed a map, kind of a map thing, and it did say the nearest state to us is Minnesota, and the state did change the statutes allowing cities to decide what they felt was prudent speeds for their city streets. So I know that's a huge endeavor also, but
Sure.
different things that we can do. And I see too, this of course dovetailing with the bike lanes we just put in. Those bike lanes and the narrower car lanes are suggesting to people to slow down, but a actual reduced speed limit with signage for the cars would make it more than a suggestion.
Right, and obviously part of the conversation too, and a bigger one is, you, as a city, you can't enforce all the streets all the time. It's physically impossible. We're talking, having an officer at every 4 blocks. It doesn't exist. It's not possible. So, since design informs, and if your streets are designed a certain way and you have a speed limit that's at 25, possibly people go 30, sometimes it's very easy to go 30 here. And as most people know, the faster you go, the more damage you cause if there's a crash, whether it's a human body or property. So yeah, to your point, enforcement, a lot of people, including ourselves within governance, rely on enforcement a lot, but you can't rely on enforcement of all streets all the time. It's impossible. So I think it's a real discussion that needs to happen. Other commissioners that have comments or questions?
I have one comment.
Yes, go ahead.
In the NATCO, they showed variations of street designs so that it really makes people slow down, like bringing the curb out closer to the road and placing a few speed bumps every once in a while. So there are other options besides just signage. There's design of the streets as we go along that will slow people down too.
Yep, good point. Thank you. Any other commissioners with comments or questions? Okay, anyone from the audience, residents, questions or comments about the item number 6? Looking in the chat here. Okay. Not seeing any. I know this is a lot to digest. It will take a lot of time. There's no way we're having this joint commission next month. So, please do take your time on reviewing these materials, not just the NACTO guide, but also the 20's Plenty for Us campaign and the declaration. Does anybody need a copy of our Complete Streets Resolution or the Vision Zero policy we have on file? Because those are going to come into play as well as we discuss how this all fits. Feel free to raise your hand if you want me to email that to you. Okay, I'll go ahead and send it to everyone. Adam, I'll copy you on that. And then we can get that information together. Okay, great. Moving on to item 7 under the staff updates, and that would be the Transportation Alternative Program grant update. In other words, for those that don't know, all of the bicycle facility, all those paint markings going on the streets right now. So I don't know if Adam or Director Badun, if you have an update for us today.
I do. This is
All right.
Director Badun. So yeah, we are in the home stretch now. The downtown area is the last significant area that needed long lines and such. They're working on that. Probably would have been done if it hadn't been for the rain here earlier and the colder temperatures, but working on it today, hoping to finish up with that tomorrow. And then there'll be a few odds and ends of things yet to do. There's still some pavement symbols that need to be put down, as well as the signage that goes with it. That'll probably follow next week, along with just a few changes that we have to make, a couple of things that didn't go down exactly the way we had anticipated to do it. But we're looking to wrap up next week. So if the weather holds out, we should be done a week from tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Quick question, Director Badun. So I know there was some question or concern about part of the grant extending onto Highway HH. And I'm curious if those facilities are still getting painted or if there's more discussion or what the status is on that.
That's going to require more discussion. Will not happen at this time. The county, had some issues related to what we were proposing, and there is some justification for what they're identifying. Not that we couldn't have otherwise made it work, but the reality is that we don't have a very good logical place to transition things together. So we're really just going off of the municipal boundary, and in a sense of working through traffic and everything and getting things to work, that isn't in and of itself a logical place to stop or start, just because of the way the boundary runs through there. So it wasn't anything that we felt was that we could probably accomplish this go round to work through any of the challenges that were going to happen. So no, I did get a final answer back from the county, which was no, they didn't want us to do it at this time.
Just one comment, and I am frustrated by that because this is a county-wide plan. This is their plan. So this is frustrating. And I know I do understand when the jurisdictional boundaries intersect, you have to have more conversation, discussion. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Other questions or comments regarding the TAP grant from other commissioners? Well, I will say another thing too, as a bicyclist who has been using them already, it's been nice. It's been very nice. I've been seeing people ride them already. Every single day I go, I use them. Even when I'm driving, I see people using them. So it's really, really cool to see the facilities getting used so quickly. And I've also been getting positive feedback. I know there's been some negative feedback as well, and complaints, including the statement I read earlier. But I think one of the things we as a commission in our own personal way or, along collaborated with the city, we should do increased education. Director Badun mentioned this, I think, at the last meeting. And I do think there are more pieces of education we can get out there. So keep putting your thinking caps on and communicating how these facilities should be used, and that bicyclists and pedestrians have rights along a street corridor as well. So
I too, on a personal note, with the lines painted, I do have a much greater sense of security when I turn that corner onto Patch Street or one of the other major roads and feel that I have this lane that's specially designated with the white line. So I haven't gotten any strange looks from anybody. I do know of some people that have who don't seem happy with sharing the lane with the bike, but by and large, I felt very comfortable, and drivers of automobiles have been accommodating.
great, thank you. Are there commissioners that have comments or feedback or questions for the director? So again, the final timeline, planning for the end of September, you think, Director Badun?
With the weather, otherwise, should it hold out, we should be essentially, 98% or so completed by the end of next week, if not completed. There may be yet a lingering item or two, but essentially it should all be completed by the end of next week.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you again for your work on this, Director Badun. I know it's been a long time coming, and lots of discussions and figuring things out. So thank you again. Looking forward to completion. Any other commissioners or residents have any comments, feedback, or questions about the TAP grant? Looking for hands.
I just have one. Am I on mute?
Yes, is it, sorry, who is this?
It's Kathy Brown.
Oh, it is
Brown?
Kathy. Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Commissioner Brown.
I just, it took me a while to unmute. I've been using the lanes, enjoy them greatly. And I just want to say, as they're there for a while, more people start using them, and that will address part of the letter, the email that was sent and you read earlier, that they're not used. But as people get used to them, they'll be used more and more. And then they'll see that it really is a great thing that is being done.
Yes, I've been saying, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Bikers have to get used to it also, and know the streets that have the facilities on them.
Yeah.
Thank you, great. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right. Just checking the chat one more time. Okay. Thank you again. All right, we'll move on to item 8. That's the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point Capstone Project application.
Yeah, so as the commission remembered last time that we met, then we recently submitted, or going to submit the application to UW-Madison for our capstone project application. And I believe, at least as of a couple days ago, we have not received a response yet, but Chair Rourke can respond if that is otherwise. But as I alluded to last time that we met, we were also going to be submitting an application request for UW-Stevens Point for a capstone project. And the deadline is about mid-September. So hopefully, and if I recall, shortly thereafter, we'll hear the response as far as if a project group chose our project idea, and then if it'll go into fruition for the remainder of the semester. So hopefully next time we meet, we have some good news regarding the UW-Madison and UWSP capstone projects. So I don't know if Chair Rourke has anything else to respond regarding this.
Not really. I think you summed it up. Yeah, I do hope we have good news. If I don't hear back by the deadline that was set by UW-Madison. I'll follow up with them via email, see what we get back. Otherwise, we'll have at least some sort of discussion or review of this in the October meeting. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, seeing none, anyone from the audience, residents, comments or questions regarding capstone projects? Okay, check the chat. All right. Well, seeing none, we don't have it on our agenda there, but it is almost adjournment. I'll just mention plan for the second Thursday of October at 3 p.m. for our next meeting. Otherwise, we are adjourned at 2:58. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.